City Council meeting is called to order, April 16th, 2024, special. Is there any conflict of interest? No. Okay. I'd like a motion to suspend the normal agenda and go with the special meeting agenda.
I'll give you a motion to suspend the normal agenda and go to the special meeting agenda.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Anyone in the public wishing to comment? Nobody sitting, no raised hands. Anyone online wishing to comment on? Anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder at info@cityofgerhart.com no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. Nobody online?
No, sir.
Okay, Chad, you have one letter email question, right?
I do. We had some correspondence that came in. It should be on your desk here on owner's rep selection. This came from Deb Papadopoulos. Chad, could you please discuss the candidate qualifications regarding their involvement in construction of the same type of buildings, emergency shelters and fire stations, and buildings requiring special attention to seismic conditions? I think in part of that, we have both representatives from both companies here. And I see David McKay's name on the list of people that are online as well. And we have the Klosh group here, assuming both of you from the Klosh group, yes, here as well. So they may be able to answer that for us as well.
Okay. So I'll go with David since you're online. Can you answer the question?
Repeat the question again for me, please, to make sure that I've heard it correctly.
Discuss the candidates' qualifications regarding their involvement in the construction of same type buildings, emergency shelters, fire stations, buildings requiring special attention to seismic tsunami conditions.
Great, thank you. We're currently building the City of Phoenix Government and Public Safety Building, which is a joint use city hall, police, and fire. We've done work with the Jackson County Fire District 5, both in seismic projects, seismic rehabilitation projects, training center, and also recovery after the Alameda fire in 2020. We've done seismic projects, 25 seismic projects around the state. Other facilities similar to this, transportation facility for the Greater Albany Public Schools that was used for their bus transportation of 70 buses. We did a dorm for the Gaston Fire District. Those are to name a few that we've done, but we do have a long list of public projects. Public projects is all we do, and throughout the state of Oregon, primarily in rural Oregon, is where our focus of work is.
Great. Thank you, David. All right. I'm going to go over to the Klosh group. Are Chris and Jesse here?
Mm-hmm.
And which one would like to answer the question, and do I need to read it again for you?
No, I don't think you need to read it again. I've got it here. Chat printed it off for us, and I think we'll tag team the response if you don't mind.
That's just fine.
All right. Personally, I have experience with the design of the Colton Valley Fire and Rescue Station, Station 62, in Aloha, Oregon. So we got through most of the land use approvals, which require public hearings, things of that nature, for that station, Station 62. So design certainly there. Damon Gardella, who's calling in, we proposed him as our fire station expert. He has over $20 million worth of equivalent fire station construction, design and construction experience. So he's here as well to serve in that technical advisor standpoint because he has that magnitude of experience. And then Jesse has experience with another local project for seismic conditions and can speak to that.
Yeah, we just broke ground on Manzanita City Hall. I don't know if anybody made it to the groundbreaking. It was literally last weekend in the rain. But that's a similar building to this, right? It's a combined city hall and police station. And the police station and that part is designed to level 4 seismic. And that lot is outside of the tsunami zone, which is one of the reasons that made it super desirable to build on. But we did, because all the soil is very sandy, we have a really kind of intense foundation and ground improvements go underneath the police station for the level 4 seismic. And then I've also built a high school in Portland where a whole section of the building, the entire gymnasium building, was designed to level 4 seismic standards and had like a emergency services. So we had external kind of taps for water and power and stuff. So it could really serve as a community shelter in the event of a large seismic event and kind of doing some resiliency planning for that whole community was part of that project.
Great.
Now, in my apologies to both groups, I didn't receive this email until just a little while ago, but apparently it was received in the info account about 12:30 today. So I did not get the opportunity to send it to either group. So they're answering that question kind of cold. Also, both groups seem to have a lot of experience in schools, hospitals, and emergency services buildings as well. And all of those, if I am correct, are critical infrastructure. And all of those critical infrastructure buildings are required to have design around earthquake, tsunami, or whatever the particular hazard may be in that situation. It's a higher level of design and building than just a normal city hall would be.
If I could be permitted to add just aspect of that is in the last 6 years, I believe it is that we've been required to, on all of these seismic projects, to build them to be an essential facility, which takes it to another level that would allow for immediate occupancy after a major event. I think that, I mean, that's in essence what your facility would be too, is an essential facility, able to serve your community, house your community, have support out of your immediately after an event, a seismic event.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we have no other correspondence, no other questions,
Not that we received.
and no one's hands raised. So I'm going to, John?
So we received 4 proposals total. 2 of the proposals were more than twice as expensive as the 2 that we're presenting with you today. I think their scope that they took was a little broad, and whereas these 2 with David and Kosh Group were more focused on what the first phase of the project really is. So this is to get assistance with the city, with some professionals that can help us go through a process to get to a design and a bonding issuance for the project. The process will include one of these groups helping us to find an architect down the line who can assist us with a design or a percentage of the design, because a complete design of the building is many hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm assuming, based on its value. And so to get this through with the community, through town halls, discussions, finding out what the city needs, a needs assessment process, and then working with the best that we can find to help us build those or design those through architects is one of the main reasons that we need to use an owner's management group. The process in going through these companies and learning more about them and talking to their references and talking to the companies themselves, I've learned that this type of service is extremely valuable to a community of this size. And this seems to be, I don't know if you can call it a cottage industry, but there seems to be more and more companies coming in and assisting these small towns with the professional builders, architecture, background that cities just don't have in-house that are this size. So in discussing how projects went in the past and the references, and I provided that information in your packets, I have learned that both of these companies are very good at what they do. They have people that are very happy with the process. They were very excited about not only the process, but the value engineering portion of things, the design portion of things, the way that each one of these companies really look in on the financial aspects of a project like this and try to save cities money. People that I talked to said that these companies saved them more than they ended up paying for the services. Now, that's no guarantee that that's going to happen, but that's the kind of work that these folks do. As I said in my report, that I think either one of these companies would do a very good job for us if that was the direction that the council, either direction the council wanted to go. We narrowed the choices down to the two bidders, HMK Company, which David McKay is here with, and then the Klosh Group, which we have a Klosh Group here. The amount of funds required will depend on which proposal the council chooses. Approving a funding request of up to $60,000 would cover either option. HMK has proposed a fee of $42,480, and Klosh has proposed a fee of $58,039. Put your council options down there so you can motion to award the owner's representative service project to the recommended bidder and approve the funds requested to the stated amount to cover the cost. Or you can take any other action desired by the council. Staff did make a recommendation. The recommendation is awarding the project to Klosh Group and approving funds for up to $60,000 for phase one of the project. Both, again, Klosh Group and HMK came highly recommended with no significant negatives, actually no negatives reported about either. Both companies are familiar with each other and have spoken positively about their respective capabilities. The council will be well served by hiring either. The decision to recommend Klosh Group was influenced by their location on the coast, providing them with better local knowledge of the proposed project in the Gearhart community. While Klosh Group's proposal is a little bit more expensive, it is important to consider that additional costs may arise from HMK's travel expenses to the coast. I'm not sure that HMK's travel expenses would rise to the difference between the two, so I'm not making a recommendation based on that. My recommendation would be through conversations that I had both with David McKay and Chris Bespeck about the what they knew about our community, what they knew about our past attempts at building this public safety building, and how they think it went. And I got some really interesting answers from both, but it seemed like the Klosh Group had been kind of tracking our project for some time. And we're very forthright with what some of their ideas might be on how to improve the process. So the legal analysis on this is the proposals will all advertised correctly, and because we did delay this decision, we updated our posting information and printed and posted the delay, and also we're in contact with companies so that they knew what was going on. The financial analysis on this is the first phase of the project will be paid through the reserve funds. And currently we have 282,000 plus available in the building reserve funds. There is to note that there is another piece to this to where we're going to use one of these two firms to help us find an architect as well. Also, through that process, these firms will assist us in finding an architect that has the experience that we're looking for in the type of construction and building that we are looking to build. So there's still another expense that will come through this phase one project, And it has been said that the architect firms may charge us anywhere between 100 and 150 and maybe less to get us through the next design phase, so we can begin talking to the public about some of the things that we've come up with and then going for the bond in a future period of time. So that's the information that I have. There's a lot of information that we have in the packets themselves as far as the phone interviews and things. And both companies are here to answer any questions the council may have moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for either company?
You all tell me how to say your last names.
Sure. Mine is Mastrandrea.
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 That's how my parents told me to say it.
Okay.
You know, Ellis Island and all that. So yeah, Chris Mastrandrea, Damon Gardella, and Jesse Steiger. Yeah.
Steiger. Thank you.
And then McKay.
David
Yeah.
McKay.
David McKay. So,
I mean, that one's easier.
So I guess my question is, you know, we're correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't even know where this place is gonna go yet. Right? So, how do we, I mean, you can't design a building for a place where you don't know where it's gonna go necessarily. So how do you handle, how does that first step go as far as whittling it down to help us and the public and the citizens make the decision about where it's gonna go? What's that look like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think out of all fairness, would you like HMK to respond first or Quash Group?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, David McKay, do you have
Yeah.
any preference whether you'd like to go first or last?
I mean, I'll go ahead and jump in, and we can probably just tag team off of each other, to be honest with you. Yeah, the first thing we need to understand is the program that needs to be served by the building. So working with your users to understand, you know, the size of the building, the type of the building, the adjacencies, and those types of things. I think the next thing we need to do is that you have had attempts at the bond previously, and I think we need to seriously look at those and the feedback that you receive from your community to then be able to do an assessment of where that building goes. If I understand correctly, you had a site to the north, but outside of the city limits with the last bond that was outside, I think it was at 72 or 76 feet. So it would have been outside of 80% of the models for a tsunami. But the community didn't want it outside of the city limits. So I think that there needs to be a robust conversation with your community to begin to get input on where that building is sited. Then that program document, that concept of the building can then be fit onto that site that you choose to build the building. So I think in essence, two aspects are going to move forward concurrently: site planning and what I call the building programming, to understand how that building's going to be used.
I think also it'd be important to understand your funding. And I know you want to go out for a bond, but presumably there's a fixed amount you want to go out for and not to exceed, I would guess. And if we're evaluating two different sites, building in the tsunami zone is going to be more expensive, hands down. And so you're going to have a smaller facility. And so I think we need to kind of compare and contrast and be able to provide the community some analysis on two different options and work through that and kind of that public community phase. And so that we empower people to understand the challenges around making the decisions so that we can start to build some consensus about what's the right location and the right design with the funding we have. That part felt really successful at Manzanita, where just by bringing them in, we're like, we can evaluate this as a remodel, or we can do new construction. We're ambivalent as a design team. What we want is to give the community what you think you need. And we put everything out there in front of this is what we know, this is what we don't know, here's how we look at it. And we just kind of had a dialogue about it, and that helped everybody come to the same conclusion as really through empowering your community with information.
Great. More? Dana?
I'm sure.
Great.
I kind of have a question. Mr. McKay, I read your proposal and you also mentioned tonight elite programming. Would you expand on that, please?
Programming, is that, did I hear you correctly? There's a little bit of an echo and I want to make sure that I heard you correctly.
It was elite programming.
If you heard elite, I did not mean to say elite. Programming is the term that I was using. Programming is the process of defining the spaces, the size of the spaces. It is the adjacencies of those spaces, so like dorms, kitchens, day rooms, apparatus bays. Within the apparatus bays, the various rooms that are needed if you're going to have hose dryers, equipment storage, storage for your EMTs, if you're going to have a small shop. All of that needs to be defined in a document. And then with that document, so it typically begins in a narrative form. And then with that document, the architects begin to put pen to paper and start to work on some concepts and taking all of that and then build those concepts that we call, in essence, schematic design, or the beginning of schematic design.
Thank you.
Preston?
Well, with all due respect to Shannon, I think that the community, or at least the people that I've had communicated with, want the station exactly where it is today, the location. They're never ever going to improve it up at the park. And the fact of the matter is, if you have a large tsunami here, earthquake, everything east of here, except for the sand ridge up on Summit, is going to be liquefied. The highway's not going to be usable. And, I think that the locations we've got here with islands and the power and the increase in elevation is going to more than satisfy this community. The reality is, the volunteers, how do they get here in the event that we have a large seismic event? Or anyone.
Well, that's just it. Nobody's going in.
And those guys are gonna be protecting their family rather than that.
And now I have something to say.
Please.
I want to reiterate what I've said before, and that is, although I appreciate that her question was, how do we get to discussion about location? And I appreciate her question. I think it's too soon. I'm going to reiterate, it's too soon for us to talk about location. Because while I also understand what you're saying, in that a large portion of the public seems to be saying that they want it here, our goal is to get enough people on board with this, and I know we're not gonna get 100%, but enough people on board with this that we can get a bond passed. And what I'm afraid of is, as she pointed out, is that we will have sticker shock once they find out the price of building a location. So again, the conversation about location, I think that we cannot go into this with a solution and then find a way to that solution. I think that we follow the information that they help us develop to the solution that works for the community. And I'm going to also say that that I am vehemently not in agreement with your assessment of whether volunteers are looking for to help us or not, because I 30 years of working in emergency services, I never had them not show up, and I think that the best example of how they will show up is during COVID, when everybody wanted to stay home and they were all running around delivering groceries and still showing up for us. So I'm gonna leave it at that. That's
Okay, well, I started these town halls and we have not reached a consensus of where the people want it. So we're starting off basically at 0 minus 0. I mean, we're not even off the ground. We're not even built to go off the ground. So this is something where it goes, phase 1 is going to be walk us through the whole damn thing. I mean, I'm gonna have a town hall the 5th Tuesday of April. And whoever gets this award has to be here to introduce themselves and start the people on the path of informing them of knowledge of what it takes and what it's going to take to get this done. Having said that, does anyone else have any other questions or statements they want to make?
Well, what you said about building it here because of the location versus on higher ground, I've never heard that stated, the cost difference stated by anybody.
I've said it. I've said it's gonna cost more, but I can't tell you how much, and nobody can tell us until we know what the project's
Well,
gonna
you
be.
said,
It's definitely more, hands down.
Absolutely. And I
Or you
feel
get
like-
less square footage,
Yeah.
right? So
right,
everything is a trade-off. You have a fixed budget, and your foundations cost more because you have to build a giant bathtub because you're in the tsunami zone. You're just gonna get less building. And so those are decisions that you can make, but you need information, and you need to feel solid about that you believe the information. That's the other thing. And so, I don't know, where Manzanita started, they were in a similar position. They went out for a bond, it completely failed. People were upset. People were upset about the process. The community members, the first meeting we had, we focused a lot. We didn't even talk about the building. What we asked them was, how can we build your trust? What do you want out of this process? What do you want out of this building? Where did we go wrong and how can this process be better? And then after that meeting, then we're able to build a plan that eventually allowed us for the whole project to come to fruition. But we had to pause and take that step, because, you know, people get upset. You live here, you work here, you put effort into planning a building and it doesn't come to fruition, or, you know, that sometimes we have to mend some bridges first. So, anyways.
Should we give Mr. McKay an opportunity?
Yes. David, do you have anything you wanna add?
No, I think that, sorry, I don't remember your name with the Klosh group, but I think she's described well the process that, you know, and what our job is. Our job is to be able to give you information so that you can make an informed decision, and then to help facilitate a collaborative discussion with your community and to support that. And it is an iterative process where of aligning scope, budget, and site and designed to finally find a project that your community can wholeheartedly support through the passing of a bond.
I could possibly entertain that. Are you listening to your radio or are you?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Do you have any questions? Since this is part of your domain, not much, because it will be the cities, but it's part of your domain.
No, I think having people that this is their job to walk through, we haven't ever done this before, and shooting at, you know we need a facility that's better than what we have, better service. And I think either company will do great in walking through with us and giving us information that we don't even know where to look or what to go through and how to process through the site. I think it'd be great. It'd be great to have someone else to be a filter, to know if we're thinking things are out of line or thinking, they don't even have any clue. So I think it'd be great, either company, I think it'd be great to go with.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh. Keep calm. All right. Does anyone have anything else to say? Does anyone have any discussion about this?
I just have a comment. We have as you guys probably all know, we have a very divided community. And that might be the biggest hurdle for going forward, is to make the two sides coalesce, so to speak. I'm just putting that out there, that's a big obstacle. So whatever one side wants, usually the other's already against it, no matter what. So that's just something you'll have to all deal with, so just putting that out there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, what?
Well, it's true. You're not gonna get an argument about that from me.
But you're laughing, that, never
I'm
mind.
smiling because you said something very nice and eloquently, and it should have been said at the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Well, I gotta cover my bases. All right, anyone else? Everyone's looked at the brochures? I'll entertain the motion then. If someone wants to give me one.
I'll make a motion to award the owner's representative services to the Klosh Group. I thought that both of them were very good, but, I like to go local, and I think that because of our politics, going local and becoming somebody who understands our community is very, very, very important.
Second. Okay. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Having no discussion goes to. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone for a nay vote? Okay. Bosch Group, congratulations, David. I'm sorry, but the choice has been made. Thank you very much
Yep.
for attending.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity, and the Klosh Group is, I have a lot of respect for. They're going to do a good job for you. If I'm going to lose, I want to lose to somebody that I know will serve you well. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thank you.
Great. All right. That's it?
I think we're good.
We're good. I do have one question for both of you. What's phase one?
Well, phase one, I more or less drafted up myself in terms of what I think the scope needs to be covered, but like Chad had mentioned, it's gonna involve a lot of things. So there's going to be a community engagement process that's put together. There's going to be a discussion in terms of what's already set up in terms of town halls and the type of communication we want to communicate and how often, the cadence. There'll be an architectural RFP that'll go out to get the correct sized architecture firm involved in a process like this in order to develop multiple conceptual designs. Because we've heard that there is, confusion as to where a facility could be located. There's no reason not to look at multiple options and to do some high level conceptual estimating as well. In order to advise the community that these are really our options in terms of what we can provide. So they feel more informed. There's some additional things that we will probably want to get into, or at least have the discussion in terms of bringing on consultants to perform geotechnical surveys to understand what your soil is like at these various locations. So that's something that we can carry and help the city obtain the geotechnical, potentially some surveying, et cetera. So really what we did, and through that course, then we get to a period where we're informing the community and then somehow accepting their feedback and getting their feedback similar to what we did at the city of Manzanita. And then ultimately we're either pinpointing on a design or getting community buy-in towards one schematic in order to continue to develop that further. And all along the while, we'll be continuing to update our cost estimates for these things and then starting to look at the funding sources. Manzanita is a good example of, they ultimately were able to fund most of it with some of the city's budgets and looking at their budget cycles in the years to come and potentially looking at other financing opportunities. There's loans that are out there that are available. There's certainly grants that exist.
Got an amazing rate on a special public works fund loan through the state. Now that's capped. I think it was capped at like 5 million, which this is a bigger project than that.
Could be.
But that was, that allowed them the council to move the project forward without having to take it to a vote. So that was pretty interesting. I think that's, if that could be functional, that would be great. I think we also just need to spend some time with you guys. What are the parameters of this project? Where are the guardrails? And how's decision making gonna work and things like that? Like there's, it's an involved process. We're gonna spend some time with you for sure.
And then ultimately, if the bond is the way that we feel like we're tracking, it'd be nice to get some early insight on if that bond is gonna be successful or not. And there's certainly some connections that we've made with some experts in that realm in order to gather that information to find out if we're gonna be successful or not, and ultimately to what threshold success could look like. And we have it included in our level of effort. We have hours that extend until I believe April or May of next year in order to get this done right. It's not gonna be a quick sprint. It'll be a bit of a marathon, and I think we're drawing upon the lessons learned from the past attempts in order to get ahead of it. So that is what we consider phase one.
Okay,
All of that and more.
Russ, can you? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm the new person on the council, and so I keep whispering in his ear because I don't know what I can and can't do, sorry. We have had 1 or 2 architectural renderings for different locations. You guys,
3, 4.
have they seen all that?
No, they have not.
So that,
There's certainly some information gathering that's going to need to occur right from the get-go.
Okay, and can you make the 5th Tuesday of April?
I didn't even know there were 5 Tuesdays in April, for the record.
What day are you leaving now?
It's the 30th.
You mean you mean Monday, the 29th is what you mean.
Oh, is that for some reason me not making, what's wrong with Tuesday, the 30th?
What you had said that the work session was going to be prior to the May council meeting and that the town hall would be potentially Monday, the 29th. I was just reminding you of that. You can
Well,
change it.
thanks a lot.
that's God, by the way.
I was wondering who that was.
I believe in you, yeah, we had previously identified the 29th, and I think everybody said that was the date that works for us, but if you want to change
Oh,
it.
no, the 29th.
What is the, so you mentioned it was the town hall, but what do you hope to get out of it? What is?
I want to introduce you to the citizens that show up
Mhm.
and have you make a short presentation, just like you did.
Okay.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to start here and we're going to go there. And this is how we're going to do it. People, be aware. We're going to ask and you're going to talk and we're going to listen. Because that's all it is for these people. They want to be heard. Because apparently we didn't listen enough last time.
If I
Or
can be
didn't
honest
listen
with
to
you,
the right ones.
I think it feels actually a little bit rushed
I'm
to
gonna
meet
agree.
with the town hall that soon because that doesn't give us much time to get to know you and what those guide rules we kind of talked about. Going to learn any of the history and then, cause I don't wanna go in front of your community and promise stuff that I don't know I can deliver yet. It's not a lot of time to put together much of a plan.
Okay,
So if there's some flexibility to think about that, and that feels wise to me, just to make sure that, I really don't want, like, promising people from the beginning stuff and then we don't follow through is not a good way to start. And I'm a little scared of that misstep if we rush this step.
I don't want any promises.
Okay.
You can say you're gonna do something, but I don't want me going, and I promise I'll have this.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want that, because that's doomed for failure.
So do you wanna meet just with us first, or I'm not,
I think we need to understand. I mean, is everybody running this project or are we working directly with
That's-
Chad and then Chad's
Yes.
gonna work with you? Like, I think there's some things to understand and set up. So we usually lead a bit of a process, a project charter where we define all that, so we understand how you want us to work with you. And what's the format gonna be? Is it monthly meetings and we need to be here? You know, there's
Yeah,
There's a lot of-
are there 2 city council members that we will meet with and they report back to the board? Are we reporting to the city administrator, governance, how communication wants to work? We like to iron that out from the get-go, so there's no confusion in terms of that. So I'm gonna agree with Jesse, and then additionally, I never claim to be an expert and certainly not a lawyer, but there is typically a period of 10 or something days that potentially any of the other candidates can protest the award. So we would probably, it would behoove us to wait for that protest period to end before we would actually enter into a professional services agreement contract, which was included as part of the RFP. So typically, we find that we're certainly available to meet and start to do some things, but in form of, introducing us to town hall and all that stuff, it would be advisable to make sure that that period has ended and a contract is in place.
Okay, well, if you're uncomfortable, that's fine. We would be beyond the 10-day limit. I don't know if you've already got a contract in your proposal, then we already have a contract that we can sign. So I am a pusher. But if I have to put the brakes on anything, someone has to speak to me and say, slow down.
I think Jesse did a good job of doing that.
I think I would like to develop a whole kind of town hall and public meeting strategy. Because I think if we invite people out here in 2 weeks and we meet with them, but what if the strategy, maybe we decide, man, we really need an architect on board and a procurement takes months. Then we're gonna bring a bunch of people here now, but then not meet with them for 3 months? And I think it would to be smart just to take a minute to kind of plan out a preliminary schedule for a while, so then we can be like, okay, community, we're gonna come to you, we're gonna meet with you 3 times, 4 times, I don't know what it is, but they're about a month apart, so that we have a bit of a plan together, so that it's not just an introduction to, hey, this is what we do, but we have no information to share with you. So, that would be my advice, is to take it.
You've already convinced me.
Okay, good.
You're selling the wrong guy.
Alright,
I can learn fast.
okay, good. I like that.
Right, so. Don't notice that meeting, Christie.
Okay,
All right, anything else?
Nope, nothing else we need to accomplish at this moment.
Okay, congratulations. I will ask for any concerns. Dana,
No concerns.
Sharon? Rita? Preston?
Nope.
I have none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll give you a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
No, I wanted it off the record because it's a dumb question.
Well, then you better have Christie stop the recording.